Welcome to the Chicago Bears Podcast, a presentation of ESPN Chicago, Chicago's home for sports. Here's your host, Pat, the designer.
Paradigm Bears fans, the week is coming to a close, and we are here for another edition of the Chicago Bears Podcast. Pat, the designer, in the building. John Jurkovic next to me, as always, on a Friday. Jurk, how you feeling today?
Spry as a rotten buck. I tell ya, 2 days before Father's Day, I'm thinking about going out and fathering some children.
Oh, okay, a little late in the game for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you got three, right?
Al Pacino's had one at 82. Anthony Quinn had one. I mean, at 80. Is it ever too late?
Is that the route you want to go, though?
Is it ever too late? I mean, I got to rewire my nether regions because I've been snipped. But nothing like fathering some children. And
they can reverse that now a little bit, can't they? Yeah,
they can, but I'm not getting reversed.
We got a little bit of a truncated show for you today, but still jam-packed with content. We've got 2 Chicago Bears per CBS that are in the top 100 players in the NFL.
2 Bears that are in the top 100 players.
2 Bears. We'll break that down.
Oh, boy.
Also, our own Mark Silverman says there's some concern around Chase Claypool and the Chicago Bears. We'll get into that. And then we have head of content, Matt Fishman, in the building. And he says that you're on a certain list in Cleveland that I found hilarious because it benefited you, and they're upset about it still to this day. So we'll talk about all that and more.
The list of lists.
We'll talk about all that and more on today's episode of the Chicago Bears Podcast. Let's get into this right away. Jurk, we got 2 Bears that make the top 100 list at CBS. Justin Fields coming in at 78.
Oh, boy.
Tremaine Edmonds coming in at 93 of top 100 players.
Interesting.
In the NFL.
No DJ Moore.
No DJ Moore on this list. He does not make it. When you hear that, does that surprise you? That's kind of where I was going with
Tremaine
this.
Edmonds being on it doesn't surprise me.
Absolutely.
Justin Fields being on it does surprise me. DJ Moore not being on it is also surprising.
It's weird. I would have thought, I
think the Justin Fields thing is simply that we anticipate in year 2 as a full-time starter that he's going to be a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where the anticipation comes from. But are there 16 more quarterbacks on that list? Are there 16 additional quarterbacks that are on there before him? Because if there are, then okay, then it's a quarterback heavy list.
Yeah.
And that's what you're looking at. And that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But if there aren't 16 quarterbacks that are in front of them and they've got him listed as like the 10th or the 8th quarterback,
right,
then I think they are prognosticating that he plans on having a great year. And that's where ultimately he'll end up at the end of the year. Almost like they're making a prediction that he's going to be there. So.
Right. And they talked about taking his rushing yards into account, him breaking, rushing records and different things like that.
I've also seen guys be like a top 25 player.
Yeah.
And play that way. And I've seen during portions of the season, I've seen a top 25 guy play like he's in the bottom 25 of the league. Well, so that happens over the course of 4.5 months. Remember, it's a long season.
And that's what I keep trying to tell people,
18
right?
weeks.
There's either one side or the other. It's either Justin Fields is going to be the greatest thing Chicago's ever seen, which he could be, or Justin Fields is going to be the worst quarterback that we've drafted. We need to get rid of him now. And realistically,
you know what the worst case scenario is? He's going to be an average quarterback. That's the worst case scenario that you can have, that Justin Fields is an average quarterback. I need to know one way or the other. Either he is the man and he's going to be the guy, or he's not the man and he's not the guy. But being average is the worst thing that you could possibly be as a quarterback.
Jimmy Garoppolo?
Well, Jimmy G wins a lot of games.
He wouldn't, yeah.
And what's Jimmy G? Does he get a ton of respect around the league?
Hey, he does not. But I would say
what's he playing for?
Well, that's true.
Who's a better quarterback, Jimmy G or Justin Fields?
Jimmy G to this point. I'd give you Jimmy G to this point.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo is a better quarterback than is Justin Fields right now. Now, you're hoping that transition takes place. Right. I hope Jimmy G has a good year anyway, but that doesn't matter. But you're hoping that transition takes place. Right now, Justin Fields in the NFC North is the 3rd best quarterback. He's better than Jordan Love.
Yes.
He's not better than Jared Goff. He's not better than Kirk Cousins. We're hoping at the end of the year he's going to be better than both of those guys.
Right.
That's why I think that list has got a little bit of a prognostication on it.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem if that's what they're thinking about and that's what they're looking at, and they're going to prognosticate and think, tell me what they think. I go, that's fine. I've got no problem with that. Then I hope those 2 defensive tackles start making that list.
Top 3 players in the NFL. They have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow.
Joe, you think it's quarterback heavy? No wonder Justin Fields made the list. Holy cow.
Those are your
3 quarterbacks.
Those are your 3 players.
Who's the first non-quarterback on the list?
The first non-quarterback on the list coming in at number 4 is Nick Bosa. Myles Garrett, number 5. Those are your top 5 players in the NFL, and then Travis Kelce.
Then a tight end.
Number 6, Justin Jefferson, 7.
You go to wide receivers.
Parsons is 8. Donald, 9. Trent Williams, 10.
Offensive tackle.
Yeah.
So you take a look. When's your first corner?
Oof. Jalen Ramsey, 14.
There you go now.
Jalen Ramsey's 14.
And I don't even think he's the best corner in the league. I think Jalen Ramsey's game has fallen off.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I don't even think he's the best corner in the league. But you see in the first 14 players, what are your key positions? Quarterback, tackle, left tackle, pass rushing defensive end or a pass rushing linebacker, a guy that can get after the cornerback, right? Corner. That's where they're at. I think Edmonds a hell of a ball player, right?
Yeah.
But what is he?
He's at the bottom.
Well, but he's at the bottom of the top 100 list.
Top 100.
That doesn't put him at the bottom of the league.
No, not bottom of the league. No, but at the bottom of the top 100 list.
You see the important positions are the ones that are out there. And Kelce is kind of a unicorn amongst themselves when it comes to the tight end position because of his ability to get open and find space.
He is
Some
amazing.
guys just instinctively can find space. And the chemistry the two of them have, Patrick Mahomes and Kelce, it's uncanny.
He is amazing, man. It's one of those things. I even watching in the playoffs in the Super Bowl last year, I was like, they know like the 6'7" guy with good hands should be guarded, right? Like, how does he keep getting open in the corner of the end zone?
First running back.
Hold on. I believe it is 30 with Derrick Henry, if I'm not mistaken. Derrick Henry coming in at 30.
Oh, yeah.
They've got him as the best running back in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I see Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert in there. So plenty of quarterbacks.
Plenty of quarterbacks for sure.
Yeah. So, I like it. It's a prognostication. It's not a bad thing.
You think that it's just a look-ahead list?
I think if Justin Fields is in the top 100 players in the NFL, that's what that is a little bit. That's like, okay, we're going to project that he is going to develop and he's going to get there. And for your sake and my sake,
we hope so.
And the sake of the citizens of Chicago and the Chicago Bears, we are hoping that he is absolutely at the end. I hope they put him in the top 50.
I think
but the proof has got to be in the pudding.
It's
got to happen on the field. It can't happen anywhere else.
Here's what I do like to hear, that we have those players, because I think you could have looked at this list last season. If you look at this list last season, one, Justin Fields isn't on here, and Roquan Smith does make this list.
Sure.
Those are your only 2.
Right.
At least now
your dilemma is you need to have 5 guys on that list.
Yeah.
You feel comfortable when you've got 5 players on the top 100 list. Then you're like, all right, I see Von Miller's on there. You've got the Stephon Diggs is probably on that list.
Yes.
So you've got players from Buffalo that are on that list.
Yeah.
That's formidable. You might even have one of their defensive backs on that list too. So the good teams, the great teams.
Micah Hyde's still making the
list. I mean, the great teams got 5 players on this list, where you're looking and go, whoa.
Well, I'll say this. A lot of Dallas Cowboys on this list. A lot of question marks among the Dallas Cowboys.
That's America's team. That's America's team. Is Dak on the list?
Dak, I do believe Dak does make this list as well as top 100 players. Yep, he's on here.
The linebackers on that list. We saw that already.
CeeDee Lamb is on this list.
That's the receiver. They got Pollard on that list.
They do not have Pollard. Stephen Gilmore.
The corner?
Yes.
Yeah. So, corner's
Stephon Gilmore making this one.
All righty.
So,
hopefully we'll get more. That's what we're asking for. We want more.
That's the goal, man. That's the goal. We'll keep this thing moving along. I thought the top 100 list was interesting. Good to see some Bears on there. But there are some Bears that have some concerns around Chicago, apparently, coming out of minicamp here. As reported by Mark Silverman, there are people in the Bears front office and organization who are concerned that Chase Claypool is not a self-motivated player, that there's some concerns around the trade that sent the 32nd pick to Pittsburgh for Chase Claypool. When you hear reports like that, Is that just off-season content? Is that just, like, is there a real concern there when he's your number 2 wide receiver? Maybe even your number 3 if Darnell Mooney's your number 2.
I think the first alarm bell that goes off is when Mike Tomlin, who's a pretty good judge of individuals, when Mike Tomlin decides, hey, I've got a guy that's been a productive player. I got a guy who in his rookie season was very productive, and yet I'm willing to move off of him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was coming to a point where they thought they were going to have to pay him. So if we can move him, we can get something for him. Let's go ahead and do it. And the 2 teams that were interested were the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. And the Bears ended up giving up that 32nd pick for Chase Claypool. The only guy that can change the opinion of everybody that they have on him over the course of, this first 8 months that he's been with the Chicago Bears is Chase Claypool. The responsibility is Chase Claypool. Now, at some point, somewhere, somehow, Chase Claypool worked his ass off in high school and in college at Notre Dame.
He was a really good receiver in
college, to get drafted in the NFL. At some point, Chase Claypool didn't have a problem working and busting his ass and getting out there and competing, okay? There was a point in time where he was more than happy and more than willing to do that. He's got to find a way to tap into that competitive nature that he's got and produce that on the field. That's what you need. That's what you're looking for. It's incumbent upon Claypool. Now, the coaches are trying to get that out of him. So whatever happened to him between college and going to Pittsburgh and having that success in his rookie season, and then the way he started to perceive everything, or everybody started to perceive him, somehow there's been a little bit minor disconnect. He's not lost because you got to have the talent to be able to play.
Yeah.
So he's got that talent, but he's got to find it inside. He's got to find it inside to bring that competitive nature out, that want, hey, I want to be able to jump higher than you. I want to be able to run faster than you. I want to be able to catch the uncatchable.
Right.
It's in there. It's in there. It's got to find a way to come back out again. So I think maybe that's a little bit of an alarm, an alarm for him, or a little bit of a signal bell, tell him that, hey, we need more.
Right.
We'd like something more out of you. We need a little bit, we need to see a little bit else, maybe a little bit of an attitude adjustment, maybe a little bit of humility, and to get out here and compete for the job, because hopefully it's going to be a good job. Hopefully it's going to be a job where you're going to be able to get a lot of receptions, and then you'll be able to cash in. He doesn't cash in if he doesn't have a great year.
Well, I think here's my question.
You won't make a dime.
Here's my question to you, right? Everybody always talks about how Chase Claypool struggled in Pittsburgh. Chase Claypool, his rookie year, when everybody was praising him, 109 targets, brought in 62 passes, 14 yards per reception, 9 touchdowns, and then ended up, being that standout with last season of basically Ben Roethlisberger having an arm.
Right.
Season 2, Ben Roethlisberger is hurt. He's got Mason Rudolph. He still gets 105 targets, brings in 59 receptions, basically puts up 13 yards less, a lot less touchdowns, but a much worse quarterback standing back there. And he only had 2 touchdowns that season. And then we're talking about our third year where you brought in Mitch, a rookie quarterback, and Kenny Pickett, and a brand new number 1 wide receiver target. By the way, the entire time he's the number 2 on this team. So where's this drop off from Chase Claypool that people continue to bring up? Or he's not the same player he was his rookie year. He didn't have the same touchdowns, but he also didn't have the same quarterback standing back there.
You also got him saying that maybe practices would be better if we played a little bit of music in the background.
That's true.
Him making
personal perception changes.
Mike Tomlin, on how maybe he should go ahead and
run a practice.
Yeah. Where Mike Tomlin responds the way he responded, which is quite funny and quite hilarious. I think the power structure that we have here at the Pittsburgh Steelers is quite fine, and I'll go about the business of making practice.
Yeah,
that's the one we saw. I can't imagine what there was behind the scenes.
Right.
And at some point, Mike Tomlin's a pretty damn good judge of character.
Absolutely.
Besides Andy Reid, I think it's Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, and Mike Tomlin. I go, that's your 3 that you can look at right now that's in the NFL and say, hey, pretty damn good threesome right there. If somebody went 1, 2, 3 in whatever direction you wanted to go, I think they wouldn't be wrong with those 3. So if Mike Tomlin is willing to move on from you, if that's not a wake-up call, if that's not something telling you, hey, and again, he was going to have to get paid.
Yeah.
So is he going to be worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? They decided no.
Yeah.
We don't want to pay him. We got Pickens. We got Deontay Johnson. We're fine. And we're going to move on. And if you're going to be one of those guys that ultimately pulls a Stephon Diggs at the end of the day, where you're on the sidelines during the playoff game throwing your hands up in the air because you're frustrated, well, that goes more to the character of an individual and a lack of being a member of a team. And knowing that it's not always one thing, it's probably a series of things that leads to people not being successful.
And we did see
so
that
what
was that, the Detroit game, end of season, where he got upset?
Nobody sees a guy for 2 seconds and says, okay, this is what he is.
Yes.
What you see is over the course of time, you start to see some patterns. And then you make kind of an assessment of, okay, it's not 100% the way we like it. So let's stop this. And let's start this, and let's come together and let's get things working out. I have faith in the fact that Chase Claypool's got talent.
He does.
I got faith in the fact that he's a competitor, and that competitive spirit will come out, and then we'll see the best of Chase Claypool. That's what I'm hoping for. But if people are grumbling, if people aren't happy, and now the 32nd pick went to the other team, and boy, you could have used that too. Well, I mean, I can understand why people in the front office might be a tad bit disgruntled. And if you're not listening, well, maybe we'll send a little message out there to the masses to let you know, hey, you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because what you're giving us is not good enough. So make it good enough, period.
I think what's interesting is, right, we hear this from, apparently this came from people in the front office, but when we hear from his quarterback, when we hear from his head coach, they're singing his praises. They're saying he's really gotten to, he's changed the way that he was last year. He's getting more into the playbook. We like where he's at. We just want him to be healthy. And he dealt with the soft tissue.
First rule of thumb that we get, the first lesson: never say anything bad about a teammate. Okay, you always be complimentary. If you can't be complimentary, don't say anything.
Right.
So those are the first lessons. So you think they're going to rip him apart in front of everybody? Do you think they're going to bring up his negatives in front of everybody? Absolutely not. That goes against the dictum of what NFL player dictum. DICTUM.
Okay. All right.
Goes against the dictum of what players are taught when they're going to give interviews. A, control the interview yourself.
Yeah.
That's what you want. And B, always be complimentary of your teammates, your coaches, and your team. Period. That's it.
Does it mean you have to sing his praises though? Because that's how I felt Justin Fields was going about it. I felt like he was, Chase is really, we like where Chase is at. We're working well together.
If you want somebody to play in a particular pattern, if you compliment them, I think you get a better response out of the individual than if you sit and say, well, it's not quite happening the way we want. This needs to happen, that needs to happen. And again, this comes from coaches and teammates.
Yes.
Front office people or other people, they can bitch and moan if they want. Behind the scenes, they can do that if they want.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who's doing the bitching and the moaning or the putting up the question marks, but whoever it is.
That's always the interesting part.
There.
The unnamed source.
The air. Well, they're just grumblings. Not even an unnamed source, just grumblings. These are some of the grumblings at Hallis Hall. So, I mean, listen, it's early. If training camp is 6 weeks, these guys are going to be together. They're going to get mad at each other. They're not going to like each other.
Yeah.
They're going to fight in practice. It doesn't mean they hate each other. It just means things got heated and they fought.
Yeah.
That's the way things work. So I don't worry about grumblings in the offseason. I worry about performance. I worry about what happens on the field. And then if you can't get a response from a teammate, a desired response from a teammate, you can put up with it for a little, but if that whatever the issue isn't going to change, and then at some point you got to realize you've got to cut bait.
How much does, if Chase Claypool is the issue in the room, how much does that change your confidence in what this offense can turn into?
That's a big speculation.
Yeah.
That's big. What might be, what might not be. I think for this team to operate at its best, Chase Claypool's got to be a part of it.
Yeah.
At least as the number 3 receiver. If for one reason or another they can't find the production out of him, then somebody else is going to have to step up.
Yeah.
And we lost Andre Rison in '96. We got rid of him because he's a malcontent. So they cut him. He wouldn't run the routes. He was running his own stuff. didn't care. Brunell ends up throwing a couple of interceptions because he's not running the routes. Your quarterback expects you to be in a certain spot, and you're running a 9 route down the field while he's throwing the ball off to your left. So, if you got that, and that gave Jimmy Smith an opportunity to step up and make plays, and Jimmy Smith did step up and make plays the rest of the year. It allowed Keenan McCardle to catch the ball a little bit more. It allowed Pete Mitchell, the tight end, and Derek Brown, the tight end, to get more balls. It allowed Willie Jackson out of Florida to be able to catch more balls. So, it had a cause and effect. You got rid of Andre, who is the most talented receiver that was in that room.
Yeah.
We got rid of him. He ended up going to Green Bay, ended up winning a Super Bowl. But that allowed others to step up and make plays and become studs themselves. And between McCardle and Jimmy Smith, the two best wide receiving tandem that the Jacksonville Jaguars ever had. Yeah. And both of them were studs.
We got some young guys that can step up. It'll be interesting to see what happens with them. Let's finish it out here, Jurk, because like I said, head of content for Cleveland, Matt Fishman, in the building.
He's in the building. Oh, boy.
And he says that every list that comes out in this category, your name is still on that list.
Number 1, I hope.
The list is of players who stole money going to teams in Cleveland. Jurk, you got, I believe, your biggest NFL contract
I'm a man.
from the Cleveland Browns.
I only collected 1 year of that, by the way. Go ahead, continue on.
How do you feel about being on that list, Jurk?
I find the list to be comical.
Yeah.
I had an issue with one of the fattest pieces of crap radio guys in the city of Cleveland that's ever known. And, so when you've got, I did his show, and my show was much more entertaining than his was. His name won't get mentioned.
Okay.
He knows who he is. If he's still alive. Who knows?
Oh, Jesus. All right. I hope so.
His fat may have killed his heart. Okay. But that's besides the point.
Right.
If I had to guess, I was the 27th highest paid player on that team.
That's not bad.
So being the 27th highest paid player on that team, how could I be anything? You know what I'm saying? How could you make that list? It doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? Who stole money?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I
You're
feel
the 27th highest paid player on the team.
Yeah.
How exactly does the 27th highest paid player on that team steal the money when I was a starter?
What was your year before that? Was that your dominant year before that?
No. 96 I had a good year. 93 I had a great year. I was just a free agent.
Yeah.
When I tell you the contract wasn't a great contract. I mean, for anybody that thinks I got something that was beyond the scope of anything, it's beyond the point of being ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I just love. I thought it was hilarious that you're still making lists out there. By the way, the list where you get the winning end no matter what.
Yeah. But listen, I went there as a free agent.
Yeah.
Chris Palmer was the head coach out there. He knew me in Jacksonville. And I went out there and I looked around the team, being the 27th highest paid player. At one point, I looked around our defense. We had a bunch of young kids that were trying to develop. Spielman got hurt, and so Spielman wasn't going to play. He ended up retiring that year. And I looked around the room, and it was Jameer Miller. Jameer Miller was behind me, came from Arizona. We had Fuller from Minnesota. Marquez Pope was behind me. And then I looked around. We had Rabi Abdullah, Wally Rainier. We had another outside linebacker. And I'm looking around going, gee, am I the third best player on this defense? Because that ain't right.
Was it at that point where you realized it might not go well?
No, listen, I'm never supposed to be the third best player on any defense.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be the 9th best player.
Yeah.
Okay. I know where I fit and I know how I belong and I know where I belong. All right. So I looked around and I said, well, we're going to have a tough one. This is going to be a tough year.
You knew it coming in?
We played in Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh washed us. We played in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Sunday night or Monday night. I forget which one it was. It was a night game because Drew Carey was out there. And we got dusted. We got destroyed. Now we came back and played Pittsburgh later in the year in Three Rivers. Yeah. And we ended up beating them.
Okay.
So, we got a little bit of our revenge. But we only had 2 victories that year.
0-8 at home.
0-8 at home. Right? We were 2-6 on the road. We beat the New Orleans Saints with Mike Ditka down there on a Hail Mary pass to Kevin Johnson out of Syracuse. And then we kicked the field goal to beat Pittsburgh 1917, I believe, in Pittsburgh. The score could be 18 or something.
Yeah,
it was in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So we had 2 victories that year. We fought our asses off. I tore my hamstring tendon off my pelvis against Carolina. So I was surgically done. I went in and had surgery about 2 days later, and they reattached my hamstring tendon to my pelvis. But, hey, if they want to put me on any list they want, I cash those checks every Tuesday. I cashed them. I was on Channel 5 out there with Jim Donovan. You know what I did there? I cashed those checks. Cashed them every Tuesday. They looked at me at the bank. They said, "Whoa, you're coming back." I said, "You bet your sweet ass I am." And then because my career ended on a surgery, I got injury protection the next year. And guess who paid me the next year too? Oh, yeah. But my time in Cleveland was great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I met a lot of different people. It's all about the journey most of the time. The fans were fantastic.
You don't have the Joakim Noah perspective
the
of it.
The fans were unbelievable. And, the downtown area was just starting to really kind of pop. The landings kind of were coming back. They were making a comeback. I went out there in 2016 when the Cubs were winning.
Yeah.
We enjoyed ourselves. Michael Simon's restaurants were out there. We enjoyed ourselves. We went to Jack's, the casino downtown. That was new. That wasn't there when I was there. So I enjoyed the living hell out of Cleveland. I lived in North Royalton, right by Strongsville. A short ride to Berea every day, or Berea, or however the hell they want to pronounce it. It was great. Our guy was the MBNA guy.
Yeah.
That had just kind of retired from MBNA, took all that money and bought the Cleveland Browns, and they built that stadium down there. Al Lerner's his name, and then his son Randy Lerner took it over. And then I think they sold out. So no, it was fantastic. I enjoyed Cleveland, blue collar city. I had no problems, no issues. Big Croatian community out there. So I had a good time. I had no problems whatsoever in Cleveland. And if that's how some want to refer to me as, and who's our guy that's out there that works? Not Tony Grossi. I had good Mary Kay Cabot, Tony Grossi. I had a tremendous amount of respect for all the people that worked in the press and the media out there, except for one big slob of a human being that won't be named. Won't name him.
Won't be named.
So anybody could put their name in there if they think they're a big slob of a human being. I won't talk about it. No. But that's fine, and I don't care.
That's this week's
because I was cashing checks and snapping necks.
That's this week's podcast.
Matter of fact, the 5 I pull out will be the 5 I made from the Cleveland Browns to go buy my cup of coffee today.
Follow us on everything. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the page. It's the only reason I brought it to the pod, because I just knew.
Killing me.
I knew it.
Yeah,
I knew it.
Hey, I still got along great out there, and their guys always send me the update for the alumni thing. So
oh, okay, yeah.
Where are we now?
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So that was kind of
pretty cool.
And saying might have been the third best. Remember, I said might be the third best. There were a lot of guys of my ilk.
Yeah.
On that team. So we're all just trying to find a way to make it, try to stay competitive. A lot of those games were competitive, and we found ways to lose. I had Jerry Ball on that team. Jerry Ball couldn't even tie his shoes. Jerry Ball is so fat. Okay.
Somebody had to tie his shoes.
Somebody, the trainers, or the equipment guy would come and tie his shoes for him. That's how fat he was.
Good fat or bad fat?
Bad fat.
Oh.
At this point in his career, it was bad fat. But let me tell you, Jerry, one of the most dominant guys for about a 5-year period. When he was Detroit, just a disruptive force, an absolute disruptive force in there. We just caught Jerry a little bit late when he was a little long in the tooth.
A little too late?
Yeah.
Jerry Kenny?
Well, a little late. I mean, he was still an okay player.
Yeah.
But he wasn't what he was in Detroit. What he was in Detroit was a phenomenal player.
Hey.
He was disruptive.
Yeah.
Yeah, a force. But we traded him to Minnesota. Minnesota wanted him back. So we traded him back to Minnesota.
That's how the cookie crumbles.
That's it.
Follow us on everything at ESPN Chicago. Bear down, ladies and gentlemen. That's a Friday edition of the pod. Make sure that you guys stay safe out there as always. For your boy, Jurko. It's Pat the Designer back in the building. Peace.